the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the Bliss Business Podcast series, Marketing with Purpose, our series where we explore how brands can use purpose to drive meaningful growth and deeper connection. I'm Steven Sakach, joined by my co-hosts, Tullio, Siragusa, and Mike Liwski. Hey, guys.
Let's do it.
Good to see you, Steven.
Good seeing you again. So today's episode is called Purpose as a Strategic Filter. So if your brand has ever struggled with saying no to shiny distractions, I've worked for companies that have, or if they've felt the pressure to follow trends that don't align with your core. We've seen that in various ad campaigns sometimes, and that falls very flat. So this episode is definitely for you if those things ring a bell.
Tullio, with the big exhalation, I agree. I mean, we've definitely seen those brands that have done that. Yeah. So, let's just jump in. I think as far as, what do we really mean around that strategic filter, right? So let's define it up front. So when we say purpose as a filter, what we really mean is using your core purpose to evaluate opportunities, campaigns, even hires, or what products you're going to pursue, or product ideas. Really, it helps you filter everything through that purpose.
And it's very easy to say yes to every growth opportunity that comes along. This is especially true when there's money on the table for startups or even well-established companies where maybe there's some goal or some plan that you're trying to accomplish, and there's an opportunity that doesn't exactly align, but it's like, I want to go grab it, right? So, but if it doesn't align with your purpose, then even though it's very tempting, it can pull your brand off course. And that's when the trust begins to erode, both internally and externally. Everyone's wondering, what's going on? Is this a thing of the future to come? So that's, what happens if you don't stay on purpose. It can start to erode the trust you've created over time for your brand.
Yeah, I think of purpose as a compass. I remember we had a guest on, Lynn Christian, I think that was the guest, who said, put it this way, it helps you with your hell yes and your hell no once you have that really defined. So when you use it, when it's used as a filter, it helps you say no to the things that, dilute you. And it allows you to say yes to the bigger, bolder things that just truly align. So I like the concept of the hell yes and the hell no. When you've got it down pat, you kind of know when something's really aligned.
Well said, for sure. That's a good summary there in terms of like our filtering. So, but saying no, it's not always, the easiest thing. It can be very hard, especially, in a fast-paced environment. Maybe you've got a poorly defined purpose, or even with aggressive growth goals, as Tullio mentioned. But here's really the truth about it, right? Is having a purpose-aligned brand will build long-term equity. Not just going for those short-term wins where you're here 1 minute and there another. It's really about that long-term equity that you're building.
And you have to be okay with the dirty looks because often you'll be like, no, we're not doing that, right? And people are like, why not? Because, one of the strategic things you want to do as a founder, as a marketer, is protect the integrity of the brand. So staying on purpose is maintaining the integrity of the brand. And that means saying no to things like campaigns that sound good, but they feel hollow, or partnerships that bring reach, but no resonance, messages that might convert, but don't connect to your values. So it's important to have that strong, no, we're not going that direction, because you're trying to protect the brand, even if sometimes the team might give you a dirty look.
Yeah, and we had another recent guest that I'm just thinking of now. She was at this pivotal point in her company's growth, right, where she had this association that could send her a lot of business, and they had all this tasks that you have to do. And she was like, okay, but we're going to do it our way. And she said that was the biggest decision she made in her company, establishing that kind of purpose-focused thing. So she didn't kind of say no totally, but she said no to doing it the ordinary way, I would say. So, when you say no for the right reasons too, I think your team will also trust you more. Your whole organization. So you're modeling alignment not just for your base, that's your customers and all that, but also for the various stakeholders of your business, the other stakeholders, your employees, even your partners and your community.
That reminds me of something I often forget, which is I used to always say, I'd like to say yes, but here's the parameters as to what I'm trying to accomplish, right? So help me say yes within these parameters. Then you can reshift.
It's a good one. I could say yes if this.
If this. So, but sometimes it's just easier to say no. But it's better to go, let me say yes if you can help me get to a yes. So the point is that, let's talk about some real brands who do this very well, right? So one of those brands who does this exceptionally well is REI. REI's purpose is to inspire, educate, and outfit for a lifetime of outdoor adventure and stewardship. So in 2015, they made this radical decision to close all stores on Black Friday, which is the total opposite of what other stores would typically do, right? And they paid employees to spend a day outdoors instead. So on one of the highest sales day, they decided, go and consume the product instead of selling the product. So this is a very strategic move they made. Now, saying no to all that revenue stream was bold, but it was a purpose-led move because it signaled to the employees and customers that REI puts values before profits, right? So it's like putting their walking the walk, so to speak. And the hashtag opt outside campaign became a movement. Like by 2022, REI made Black Friday closures permanent. So you're not going to find a REI open on Black Friday, but you'll find all the employees out there doing the stuff that they sell you. So they're living the purpose and they're embodying that purpose. And that's probably a better commercial than any words you could possibly say. So this is an example of where being purposeful, living your purpose, going sometimes against the grain of what is expected, like on a Black Friday sale day, that pays dividends over time because it supports your base to say that you're actually living what you're saying.
A beautiful example. Another beautiful brand too, guys, is Dr. Bronner's, the iconic soap company. Very interesting, right? We might look on their website. They're all one motto. And so they have this really deeply embedded purpose to operate with the highest standards for environmental sustainability, fair trade, as well as social activism. So thus, their motto of all one. And it reflects kind of that unifying philosophy across, the people, the planet, and their product. It's sort of like that strategic no, right, is what they use. That's their filter. And so interesting enough, at one point, Dr. Bronner, that brand had to come out publicly and they, did this by turning down distribution deals with many of the major retailers who required them or tried to get them to cut back on the labeling and try to tone down their political messaging because they deemed it as maybe too controversial or even off-brand for the major retailer. And so that helped them, with their strategic no, said, no, we're not going to do this. They stuck close to their purpose. And, for that, they benefited, right? Many turned, for those of us who know this case, turned to social media and supported Dr. Bronner's in that regard. And then, it became better than, the retail deal that they could have gotten and then turned away from their brand. They would have lost a lot of that trust and their constituents.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, I think, too, when you're thinking about it. You get in this major distribution deal, but you have to say no to it because they want you to change and kind of fit the mold. And that's really the thing is what a lot of this pressure is. And you see these companies is like some of this, if they're outspoken, they really are being told to kind of, hey, can you tone it down, fit the mold. But ultimately, your loyal customer base, and they want you to stay true to that purpose. And if you don't, and you start changing that direction, we see it a lot with a lot of companies. You suddenly see, this everything fracture within your sales and your marketing.
Yeah. And we know that it takes so long to build that loyalty, right? But just in an instant, you can really lose that. Yeah. So now, by this time, you probably understand the importance of having a well-defined purpose, right? As that strategic filter, you've seen as well the brands that are doing it and how they're benefiting from it. So you might be asking yourself the question, right? How do I build this type of a purpose? So here's really kind of the how to make this actionable for you. There's 3 questions that we like to ask so that when you start to evaluate a particular opportunity, is, does this support or does it end up diluting my purpose, right? Would we still be proud of this decision 5 years from now? Or also, what if it ends up on the first page of the Wall Street Journal? Would we be proud of that or not? And then will this create clarity or confusion in the minds of our team as well as those loyal customers?
And you can even love those. You can even bake those like into your leadership meetings. So it's not just a marketing conversation or a product conversation. It becomes the very conversation the entire company has. So when you create these purpose filters, they become a checklist or kind of like a scorecard. So if a new project scores low or on the alignment, even if the numbers look good, it's a red flag. So that's basically building in those filters as a metric. It becomes a way to measure what the things you want to focus on and the things you don't want to focus on.
And Tullio, I just want to throw in there real quick. I love your point about using it in other parts of the company and even using it in your meetings, because it makes the purpose come alive too, right? It's entered into the day-to-day life. So I really love that point.
Yeah, it builds that cultural coherence, right? We've talked to some of the guests too, where they have these rituals that they bring into meetings that help them kind of remind them, and like you said, Mike, brings it to life. So I mean, at the end of the day, purpose is more than a statement on your website. It's really a tool for clarity, for courage, for consistency. So saying no with purpose isn't just strategic, it's powerful. So thanks for listening to this Bliss Business Podcast and our Marketing with Purpose series. Please like, subscribe, and share, or leave a review. Every little thing helps, and we'll see you next time.